GrowSmart Rhode Island is currently in a pivotal transition year. As you may know already, our esteemed executive director and leader, Scott Wolf, is planning to step down at the end of the year. So big round of applause for Scott. 5 years ago, when I was getting involved with GrowSmart and taking calls with Scott, I was asking him, what's GrowSmart? What do you guys do? And he would say, well, we herd cats and this and that, and kept on saying, herding cats? What is that? Sounds more like animal rescue than what we do. But we got past that. I figured out exactly what GrowSmart was all about, and I didn't look back. For 27 years, Scott has led GrowSmart Rhode Island with an unwavering commitment to Rhode Island. He's been the forerunner of smart growth movement for the state, a movement that's built on strong communities, vibrant downtowns, and thoughtful development. Scott cares enough to lead, which causes folks like me to really elevate myself to, try to emulate the type of person that he is. And what stands out most isn't his many accomplishments, which go on and on. We could have a separate event for that, which we hope to do. But it's how he goes about getting things done. He does it with integrity, thoughtfulness, and all the while he just has this really big, warm personality, this gregarious personality that's infectious, and he has so many catchphrases too. So I don't want to minimize all his accomplishments, but gosh, he's just a very memorable individual. And on behalf of the board, the staff, the many partners that we work with, a sincere, deeply felt thank you, Scott, for all your work. And I look forward to working with you throughout the process and in future endeavors, whatever shape they take. Thanks again. At this point, I'd like to have John come on stage to offer some remarks as well. John Flaherty, former deputy director and now director of our consultant for Green Associates, has been just a tremendous partner and a colleague of ours for many, many years.
Good afternoon, and I wanted to first acknowledge and thank Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos for joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much. All right, this is going to be fun. So I've had the privilege and, dare I say, occasionally the challenge of working right alongside Scott Wolf for 23 of his 27 years leading GrowSmart. That's certainly long enough to witness not only what he's accomplished, but how he gets it done. Now, there's no way in 4 minutes, and I've got 4 minutes, I can do justice in summarizing the impact of Scott's work over 27 years. So, rather than recite a resume, I'd like to speak with you more about the man behind the title. But first, we do need to take account of some of the key big picture impacts achieved over 27 years. And when I think about the trajectory of sprawl in Rhode Island at the time that Scott was hired, back in 1999, there's no disputing the remarkable shift in direction that's occurred since. One that's seen significant reinvestment in the return of population to our urban and town centers. Early on, for GrowSmart, it was the landmark Cost of Sprawl report, some of you may remember, which documented in dollars and cents the public costs of sprawling development. Then came what's been called the most powerful economic and community development tool for Rhode Island over the last quarter century. And I'm referring, of course, to the State Historic Tax Credit Program enacted in 2001. That's a program that breathed life back into more than 300 historic buildings across the state, created more than 6,500 new units of housing, and catalyzed over $2 billion in private investment. That wouldn't have happened without Grossmart and without Scott Wolf. Across all the gains achieved, Scott has been a visionary, a builder of big tent coalitions, often of unlikely bedfellows, a thought leader, and a master strategist. Now, when someone is as brilliant and as talented as Scott is, it usually comes with at least some baggage, right? What I might call Scott-isms. So let's talk about that for just a moment. And I'm thinking about those sometimes endearing, but occasionally nerve-wracking habits that can make you wince. Who here has not experienced Scott being late for everything? He calls himself the late Scott Wolf. So speaking of late, Scott is a nocturnal creature. He prefers late night calls when he does his best work and when the rest of us are going to sleep. Scott's also the most literal person that I know. I can say, Scott, that analysis was done 3 years ago. And he may say, I'm not so sure. I think it was 2 years and 9 months. Or my all-time favorite, when in the office we talk about how we think people really do appreciate livable communities, to which Scott says, livable? What's that? It's just livable? As if it's not something worthy, but I get it. The point is that while these and other habits can sometimes be annoying, it's always easy to look past them when you consider the totality of Scott's character. And that's because I know my daughter's out here. She knows I'm a crier. But because he's one of the most decent, kindest, fair, and respectful human beings that I've had the honor to know and to work with. And of course, Scott's going to quibble with the word decent because maybe decent isn't quite, enough. But when I say that, I mean someone who's morally sound, trustworthy, and kind-hearted. And that's one of the chief reasons that I stuck around for 23 years. So I know from watching and observing Scott over the years that he's been profoundly influenced by the example of his very exceptional parents, Ruth and Irving, whom I've had the pleasure of knowing for several years before their passing in 2010 and 2011. And no reflection on Scott would be complete without remembering his longtime soulmate, the incomparable Joyce Krabach, who we lost in 2022. Joyce brought wisdom, warmth, and a grounding presence to Scott's life. And those gifts became part of who he is, and they remain evident in the grace and humility with which he leads. All right, now I'm going to bring it to a close. And I'd like to do that. There's a beautiful Hebrew concept that Scott introduced me to years ago. It's called Tikkun Olam, and it means the repairing and healing of the world. And I've come to believe that it's this idea that explains Scott's career path better than any title ever could. He spent 27 years helping to heal and repair our communities across Rhode Island, to be the kind of places where people of all walks of life can lead healthy, thriving, and prosperous lives. And before we move on, if anybody thinks that this is Scott's retirement, you have another thing coming, That's not the case. You're wrong. There's a lot more tread on his tire. And I, for one, look forward to seeing what Scott Wolf 2.0 has in store for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Scott Wolf. We did it. Oh, and before you speak, if you're going to invite Congressman Allen up.
Okay, well, you want to do that?
Yes. Thank you. Before we hear just a few words from Scott, it's my honor and privilege to invite Congressman Gabe Amo to the podium.
My congressman, and I'm damn proud of him and of him representing us.
Well, I'll be brief. I just hopped off the plane coming back home, and I said I had to be here. Scott's visionary leadership is known to so many in this room, and his kindness and warmth, as John just laid out, is something that we've all felt. And I've personally felt in a ton of ways. And so on behalf of all four of us in the Rhode Island congressional delegation, because when one of us speaks, we all speak, I want to extend a deep, deep congratulations on all of your 27 years. As you said to me on the phone when we spoke last week, echoing what John just said, this is not a retirement, so I fully expect to be deeply engaged with you in the years ahead. But for me personally, from being a staffer in the governor's office to certainly being a member of Congress over the last few years, you have provided guidance, wisdom, inspiration that is unremarkable to a lot of people in you know, the way that we move around the world. People hear a lot of encouragement, but for me, it's been changing, life-changing in every way. It's been totally remarkable, totally meaningful, totally a reflection of your character that has shaped Rhode Island and the lives of people in Rhode Island along the way. So thank you for everything. And I've got this certificate of special recognition. You'll get a ton of them. So I'm not going to read it, but you guys know how that goes. But above all, with deep gratitude, we celebrate you today and in the days, months, and years to come. Thank you.
Well, I'm seldom speechless, but I'm close to it. Oh my God. And I hope I can live up to all these accolades, my God. Although John at least leavened the accolades with a little bit of a reality check. Thank you for that, John. You know, for me, I mean, life is complicated. Life is incredibly precious gift. It can be tragic. It can be exhilarating. It's kaleidoscopic. But what ultimately I think is most important is the quality of people that you have around you, and your ability to in some way repair the world. And with Congressman Amo and with Nick and with John and with Jillian and the rest of our team here, I am so blessed to be surrounded by and to be collaborating with high quality, community spirited people. And when people on the street, so to speak, start ragging on people in public life or people in the nonprofit world or so-called do-gooders who think there actually is a way to make lives better, I bristle because I know there are an incredible number of thoroughly decent, talented, high-minded folks who make our society both function and at times thrive. And that's what keeps me going in many ways. So I got a few other thoughts, but John took some of my thunder, which is good. So it'll be a little briefer than I expected I was going to be. But after collaborating with you, John, for 24 years, 23 years, who's counting at this point? You and I are like an old couple, I would say. Yeah, we can finish each other's sentences and laugh at each other's quirks. And you've got more to laugh at than I do when it comes to that. But for me, this is a time of intense reflection when I have a few minutes to do that, and that doesn't always happen. It's also a time of mixed emotions. I am very proud of what Grow Smart Rhode Island has accomplished. And I still love the work, I still love the people, and I love both the boldness and the fundamental soundness of our community and life-enhancing agenda. One that is characterized by a dogged pursuit of a more economically vibrant, fair, healthy, and user-friendly Rhode Island. And as with any movement committed to what, as John noted, we in the Jewish tradition call tikkun olam, repair of the world, there's always unfinished business. There's always new challenges to confront. But hopefully, and I think in this case it's true, there also are small victories to savor, and sometimes even bigger victories to savor on the winding road to long-term systemic change. So consider the following saga of progress for Grow Smart Rhode Island and our state. And my first point you made, John, which is our cities are coming back, and population is increasing in many of our cities. And we were formed in part because of a huge concern that there was large urban disinvestment and that our cities were hemorrhaging jobs and people and progress. And that's changing somewhat. It's not where we want to be, but it is changing somewhat, and it's due to all of you in this room. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of, and I think many of you here who would agree, is the pivotal role Grow Smart Rhode Island played in establishing and defending and explaining and promoting in dealing with the various gyrations of the state historic tax credit. But to cut to the chase, there are 324 rehabbed historic buildings, mainly in our main streets and downtowns, that were either vacant or severely underutilized before Grow Smart Rhode Island began. And I'm not saying we did it single-handedly, but I'm not sure this would all have happened without our being a key player at the table. And while the state's record has been mixed in effectively implementing various smart growth tools and plans that have been developed since we were formed, I think it's indisputable, and I say this as somebody who's at national smart growth convenings a lot. I was on the Smart Growth America board for 18 years, so I have some national perspective on what's going on in other places regarding smart growth. I think it's indisputable that our efforts have helped create an impressive Rhode Island smart growth toolkit and an impressive set of blueprints for a much more economically robust and sustainable place. You've got the Municipal Infrastructure Grant Program. You've got the Brownfield Grant Cleanup Program. You've got complete streets ordinances and policies. And we played a key role in all of those things. We played a key role in raising Rhode Islanders and our leaders' consciousness about the potential housing and economic benefits of transit-oriented development. And we're actually seeing some incentives for that now. And then, thanks to Jillian, we've got our new potentially transformational state coordinating program to help community builders make our varied main streets and downtowns key engines for sustainable economic growth and upward mobility. Now, none of these things are necessarily sexy, but they are fundamental to building a better life for all of our people, and sometimes more fundamental than some other things that make the headlines. And on the planning side of the equation, we've been front and center in making the Transit Master Plan a reality, and certainly helpful in getting the Bike Mobility Plan adopted. But, and this is kind of a call to arms, not that you need one, but I'm going to make it anyway. These two plans are languishing. They've been largely ignored, and that is a missed opportunity, and it is an unforced error, and it needs to change if we want to make this state all it can be. So, in addition to our policy and planning accomplishments, I'm also proud of the attitudinal changes I think we, along with a lot of other groups and leaders, have helped to bring about regarding Rhode Islanders' collective self-esteem. Many of you have heard me rant for years about my frustration with what I call Rhode Islanders' knee-jerk negativity and unique-itis, the simplistic, self-destructive notion that we're uniquely incompetent, uniquely corrupt, and uniquely doomed to underachieve. Now, I've been around the block a lot, and I've been around the country enough to know that that is BS. And a lot of these self-defeating and unjustified attitudes, fortunately, are fading. And for all of our quirks and sometimes our frustrating missteps, Rhode Island pursues, at least in some cases, very bold policy reforms and initiatives. I already talked about the tax credit, our leadership role in the offshore wind industry, despite some of the blowback on that, major Grow Smart Rhode Island-backed improvements in our 2 deep water ports, a nationally recognized land use reform package that you've heard a lot about to jumpstart location-efficient housing, which we desperately need. And then, and this is in Trudy's wheelhouse, capitalizing more effectively on our beauty, our magic, and our soul to become an increasingly popular national, not just regional, but national and even international tourism destination and cultural, gastronomical mecca. So, before I give you the chance to pivot to what you really want to observe and hear, which is the Gubernatorial Candidates Forum, I'm going to end with just a few more brief reflections on my personal and professional future. And first and foremost, and you kind of gotten a preview of what I'm about to say. While I'm retiring as Executive Director of Grow Smart Rhode Island, I am not, emphatically not retiring professionally or as a community change agent. And I'm beginning to explore new exciting ways to build on the professional and personal smart growth that I hope I've achieved personally and professionally in my 50-plus year career at Grow Smart and in a half dozen other places. I did have a career before Grow Smart Rhode Island. And while I'm still mentally and physically fit and driven, for better or for worse, I'm primed to continue doing my bit to move the arc of justice and the overall human condition in the right direction, locally and potentially nationally. And simultaneously, I intend to sustain one of my favorite newfound passions, which is helping mentor a new generation of positive, community-spirited change agents and visionaries. So for me, this is an exciting and at times a little bit discombobulating transition. But I'm looking forward to continuing to work with all of you, continuing to learn from all of you, continuing, unfortunately, to still probably show up a little late for meetings with you, and continuing to find creative ways with you to make this lively experiment that we call Rhode Island even livelier and capable of delivering even better results for our people. So thank you all. Please stay involved with this exceptional organization and movement. And for what it's worth, and I think it's worth something, please know that I will continue to be passionate about Grow Smart Rhode Island's mission and supportive financially and otherwise of its work. So thanks much for everything, and onward, and we'll get to that Gubernatorial Candidates Forum in just a minute. Thank you very much.